The Department of English at Missouri State University presents Let's Read Paradise Lost, Book 9. Alright, if you watched the overly sarcastic productions video recapping the entire plot of Paradise Lost, you'll know that we are skipping over quite a bit to get to Book 9, including Satan's escape from hell, his entrance into paradise, Raphael coming to Adam and Eve to visit them, to warn them that there is a bad dude on the loose and he's going to come and try to mess with them. And Raphael then gives a whole flashback where he describes the whole war in heaven to Adam and Eve. And that leads us up to Book 9, which begins with Adam and Eve having a fight, an argument, a debate, a very rational debate, which Eve, in a sense, wins because she's like saying, hey, let's split up for a while so that we can enjoy seeing each other again more, having parted from each other for a bit, and do what, pick fruit, tend the vines, do our paradise work that we do, and then we'll meet up. And Adam's all like, no, I heard so we should stick together for safety. And Eve's like, what? You don't think I can handle whatever it is that you've been warned about? And finally he's like, okay, fine. I'm not gonna like tell you what to do, even though I could because I'm the man. Because Milton is pretty sexist. I love Milton, but he is, as the kids say, a problematic fave. So she goes off and she's picking fruit, berries, tending vines, plucking flowers, being all, hey, it's Eden, I'm Eve. And Satan, that is sort of creeping up on her. And then he finally catches a sight of her. And in this flowery kind of like little bower, this clearing in the paradisiacal forest. And this is the narrator's description of that first encounter, that first sight, that first gaze that Satan has of Eve. Let's have a look. The he in line 444 refers to Satan. Much he the place admired, the person more. The person being Eve. He's just caught sight of Eve. And now we get an epic simile that goes from as one all the way down to here. Such pleasure took the serpent to behold. As much he the place admired, the person more. As one who long in populous city pent, where houses thick and sewers annoy the air, pollute forth issuing on a summer's morn, to breathe among the pleasant villages and farms adjoined. From each thing met conceives delight, the smell of grain, or tedded grass, or kine, or dairy, each rural sight, each rural sound, if chance with nymph-like step fair virgin pass, what pleasing seemed for her now pleases more, she most, and in her look sums all delight. Such pleasure took the serpent to behold. So Milton is imagining that for Satan, seeing Eve in paradise, imagine that you're in a populous city pent up, with houses thick and sewers. Imagine also that it's the 1600s and there's no plumbing and everybody dumps their refuse out the window into the street. A simple fact about the pre-modern city is that it always smelled thickly of human and animal waste. And in fact, the growth of cities before the invention of modern sewer systems, etc., was almost always from people moving to the city rather than inherent reproduction, because the death rate in cities from diseases was so high. So Milton is imagining leaving the city and what it's like when you leave the city to go to the country and smell the smells of the country. and the grass and stuff like that, and to see a woman and how much more delightful a beautiful person looks in that surrounding. Such pleasure took the serpent to behold, making an implicit comparison, of course, between the urban environment and hell. As a historical note, it's also worth noting that in 1666, before the Great Fire that burnt much of London down, at the time that Milton, I think, was working on Paradise Lost, there was a great outbreak of the plague. So in addition to the normal filth and mire of the cities, everybody was also stuck inside their houses and couldn't even go out for fear of catching a deadly disease. Can you even imagine? Ugh. This flowery plat, the sweet recess of Eve, thus early, thus alone, her heavenly form angelic but more soft and feminine, her graceful innocence, her every air of gesture or least action overawed his malice. There's our main verb there, or our main clause there. What is overawing his malice? Her heavenly form. And with rapine sweet bereaved his fierceness of the fierce intent it brought. So what has happened to Satan here? He sees her, and his malice, his desire to do wickedness, is overawed. His fierceness, and it with rapine sweet, and rapine here, of course, is related to the word rape. It's also related to the word rapture or raptor or rapeseed, all of which will come from a Latin word rapere, to seize. So plunder is how it's glossed by your book there. So with plunder sweet she bereaved, and Milton loves to make these little plays with the sound eve in various words: deceive, perceive, bereave. So she bereaves, that she takes away. This word also, reaver, is related also through French to rapere. She bereaves his fierceness of the fierce intent it brought. Now, this next part is the part I really want to focus on here, because having witnessed this incredible beauty, Satan, something happens to him. That space, that's for that short amount of time, that space the evil one abstracted stood. And I don't think secluded is the right gloss here. To be abstracted is to literally be drawn out of, right? To tract, as in tractor, to pull. That space the evil one abstracted stood from his own evil. And for that time remained stupidly good, of enmity disarmed, of guile, of hate, of envy, of revenge. So he's just sort of dumbfounded, like he has never seen anything like this, and he's just so kind of stunned by her beauty that he forgets himself for a little bit, right? He's not evil because he's just completely out of himself. But the hot hell that always in him burns, though in mid-heaven, soon ended his delight, and tortures him now more, the more he sees of pleasure not for him ordained. Then soon fierce hate he recollects, and all his thoughts of mischief, gratulating, thus excites, hailing, "Thoughts, whither have ye led me? With what sweet compulsion thus transported to forget what hither brought us? Hate, not love, nor hope of paradise for hell, hope here to taste of pleasure, but all pleasure to destroy, save what is in destroying, that is, what pleasure is in destroying. Other joy to me is lost. Then let me not let pass occasion which now smiles. Behold alone the woman, opportune to all attempts, her husband for I view far round, not nigh, whose higher intellectual more I shun. Sorry, there's Milton's sexism for you, very intense sexism. And strength of courage haughty, and of limb elevated, heroic built, though of terrestrial mould. Foe not informidable, exempt from wound I not, so much hath hell debased, and pain enfeebled me to what I was in heaven. She fair, divinely fair, fit love for gods, not terrible, though terror be in love, and beauty not approached by stronger hate, unless hate stronger, under show of love well feigned, the way which to her ruin now I tend. And what's going to happen now then is, first of all, he gets angry at himself for having gotten so overcome by her beauty, and envy as well. He sees that this beauty is not for him, it's for somebody else, and that makes him hate it all the more, and long for the pleasure of destroying what he cannot have, because all joy to him is lost. There is, I think, in this, for all that Milton is sexist, and not only not only is he a believer in the idea that men are inherently superior to women, it is important to him. It is central to the story that he's telling. The fact that Eve is intellectually inferior to Adam is the reason that Satan chooses her as his target. That said, there is, I think, in Milton's description of Satan's reaction to Eve, that this thing is beautiful. It makes me feel things I don't want to feel, and therefore I want to destroy it, is a wonderful indictment of a certain kind of misogyny. The kind of I guess you might identify it. You might identify Satan as a early incel. But Milton's depiction of gender and his attitudes about the relationship between male and female sexes is complicated, because if you get into Book 10, which we haven't read, it is Eve who, after the fall, first repents to Adam. She says, "I'm sorry that I did this." And it is this moves him to understand repentance and to pray to God for forgiveness. And they both pray together for God, initiating, in a sense, the process of redemption from the fall that Jesus is ultimately going to fulfill. A fulfillment, by the way, which comes in Milton's wonderful and somewhat different poem, Paradise Regained, which is about Jesus' temptation by Satan in the wilderness from the Gospels. So there's a lot going on here, but this is Milton showing Satan not as heroic, but as kind of pathetic and kind of sad and evil. He wants to destroy something that is beautiful simply out of spite, as he said so from the beginning. What follows this, I want you to pay close attention to, because there is a pattern of seduction that Satan undertakes that involves both rhetoric, poetry, visual display. He is going to put everything he can on to lure Eve, who was initially very resistant to disobeying God's one command that he had given, but it's sort of a tour de force of persuasion, the power of human speech and the senses to beguile. And ultimately it shows that Eve agrees through her own reasoning and through her own will. And this is, and it's a very complicated argument that Satan makes and that she follows. And there's a lot to do in it about why it is that uncorrupted human beings could have chosen sin. If they were without sin before the fall, how is it that they chose sin? What does it mean to follow free will? What does it mean to have free will, to be able to reason about things? And also, how much good does reason do you? This is one of the things Milton's grappling with too. He's writing at the time of the scientific revolution and the dawn of the Enlightenment, and in a century of that has brought many religious wars to conclusion, not just in England but all over Europe, where people are really grappling beginning to really grapple with the relationship between faith and reason and the kind of truths that faith can provide. And Milton is making a strong argument that for the insufficiency of reason, because Eve's perfectly sound reasoning leads her to choose that which is going to condemn her and all her descendants to suffering and death, basically. I don't care whether you agree with Milton or not, but I hope that you will admire and understand the thoroughness and the excellence with which he carries out his argument and his representation of his argument, his justification of the ways of God to man, to his readers through the extraordinary music of his poetry. I'm going to stop there so that I don't wear you out here. I think your time is best spent reading Milton, reading it slowly, listening for the main clauses and listening for the patterns of sound, and seeing how he builds his sentences. Milton himself is a wonderful teacher of close reading and of the things that you can do with very carefully constructed language. I like poetry like this. I like poetry that is highly wrought. I respect the kind of more spontaneous, effusive poetry that you find in slams or in confessional poets or beat poetry, but this is my jam. I hope some of you have enjoyed it too, and I look forward to discussing it with you in online. See ya.